Hello, welcome to Keith's Pi Tutorials. Today I'll be taking you through the basics of using Draftsight, a 2D vector CAD program. It works in a very similar way to the professional AutoCAD series of applications. I use AutoCAD extensively at work, so I find it very familiar and easy to use. I use Draftsight to create my 2D laser cut files. I used it a lot when creating Tractorbot 2015 for last year's PiWars. Now, the previous year I used Inkscape, which was okay, but a few features of it frustrated me. I found it very awkward to create accurate size shapes to a certain size. Now, I know you can draw a square with set coordinates and a line of a set length. It's quite hard building them up, and the only way I found doing this was to create guidelines, then edit the guideline, find out its coordinates, add another guideline, calculate where you want it, and then input the coordinates. In AutoCAD, it's very dimension driven and you can draw things to exact sizes. So I'll be taking you through how I use Draftsight. Start off downloading Draftsight. So let's just type in Draftsight and see what it brings up. So this is the official page. And somewhere here we go, download now. There's various paid options, but there's also a free option, which is free for 30 days. But if you activate it, which is just typing in a few details, email address, your occupation, it stays free. So to download, so you've got various options. You can get Draftsight for Mac, Windows, 64-bit and 32-bit, Fedora and Ubuntu. So it's available for most machines. So download for Mac. Need to click OK on that. Of course, we've read it all. And there you go, it's downloading. So once that's downloaded, on the Mac it's a simple case of dragging it into your applications folder. On Windows it's probably just as simple as double clicking on the downloaded file and go through the usual install process. So I won't take you through that. I've got Draftsight loaded up here. Now the reason I use Draftsight is because it's very, very similar to AutoCAD. I'm a civil engineer by trade and I use AutoCAD day in, day out. I trained on it in my early years using DOS, when it was very much a command line tool. Now it's stayed a command line tool, but it's now got lots and lots of menu options and toolbars. But I still find driving AutoCAD using command line, it's far quicker in my experience. So that's how I'm going to demonstrate Draftsight to you using command line tools. There are menu tools, there's all the usual tools from the drop down menus and toolbars, etc. Now I do use them sometimes, but for most drafting exercises I just use the command line. So you can see here there's a command line window. This area here down on the bottom left is very important. This tells you what's happening and what it's expecting. And this area here is where we could type in commands. What I'm going to do actually is just make that a bit bigger so it's easier to see. So there's lots of options here. I don't get on all that well with Draftsight. The only reason I'm using it is because it's free and it uses exactly the same key commands that AutoCAD does. So I personally can use it very easily. I was using Inkscape, and I still use Inkscape. Inkscape's very good for converting files and doing non-measurement critical stuff, but Draftsight and AutoCAD are excellent when you want to draw something to scale and you want it to be nice and precise. So I use it for when I'm designing laser cut items, and I just find it very accurate. You can type in your dimensions. I'll take you through it all, but that's the reason I use it. It's very similar to AutoCAD, and it's very accurate, whereas in Inkscape you can type dimensions in, but I find particularly on circles that the dimensions you type in is the size of the bounding box, and it's not actually the size of the circle, which is very frustrating. And if you want to move something a set distance away from an existing object, the only way I found of doing that is to drop a guide in, drop a second guide in, double click on each guide, find out what their coordinates are, calculate the coordinates manually, edit the guide position, and then you can draw something aligned with that guide, which is time consuming and I don't find very user friendly. So I'll show you how AutoCAD and Draftsight allow you to draw stuff accurately. So let me just get this toolbar a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. There you go. Hopefully that should be better. Now, I will admit now, I'm not 100% familiar with Draftsight, but I know the AutoCAD commands, so I can get my way, I can draw something. What I don't like is how these windows float, and I haven't worked out how to dock them yet. That might be possible, but let's just... This one here, actually, I think I'll get rid of. We won't use that today. This one I'll keep handy, because these are the basic drawing tools, snap, etc. And we'll keep that one there. Okay, so I'll take you through the interface now. So, as I said before, we've got the command line tools down the bottom here. This is our drawing area, and we've got our various toolbars and menu options along the top here. Just one thing to be aware of, AutoCAD has two drawing modes. There's something called model space, which is where you draw everything. Everything's drawn at 1:1 scale. So there'll be a units command in here to tell Draftsight what units we're using. So let's see what that's set up to do now. So I'm typing in the bottom here units, and in AutoCAD and Draftsight to select to enter that, I can use enter, but you can also use the spacebar. So I've just tapped spacebar. How I use AutoCAD, if you imagine this, in my right hand I've got my mouse, and in my left hand my left thumb hovers over the spacebar, and I use my four fingers to type the commands in. So I've always pretty much got one hand on the keyboard and one hand on the mouse. So units. So we're in millimeters here, which is what I'm familiar with using, but you can change that to what you like. And then when we draw a line of set size, it will type in a distance, say 100, and in my case it will be 100 millimeters. You might have it set up for meters or inches, or whatever your preference is. So in model space, everything is drawn 1:1 scale in accordance with how the units are set up. You can also use sheets, which I won't be getting to today, but this is where if you want to output your drawings to paper, you'll set a sheet up which will be set up according to your print size. So if we're printing to A4 or A3, we'll have a sheet size A4 or A3, and then inside here, this box here is called a viewport, and that's a viewport into our model space, and we can scale this viewport to whatever scale we want, 1 to 10, 1 to 100, 1 to 1000, 1 to 33, any scale you like, and it allows you to set up your model to scale. So when you print it on your printer, A4, A3, whatever, if you've got a plotter, you could print it out A1 or A0, and you'll know what scale you could have defined that scale. So that's how you get scale drawings out on a bit of paper. But today, make sure you're in the model space, and that's you get this very familiar black screen. So we've got our model space, and we've got our command line down here. We've set our units, we're ready to go. So I'm not going to be drawing anything specific here, but let's just draw a few basic shapes. So if I want to draw a circle, what I would do is press C. Just keep an eye on what's going on down the bottom here. See C, and then I press the space bar. Now it's telling me I'm in the circle mode here. There's various options: a 3-point, a 2-point circle, TTR, TTT. To be honest, I don't know what they are, but it's asking me to specify the center point. If I wanted to do a 3-point or a 2-point, you can see the 3 and the P on the 3-point is underlined, and the 2 and the P. So if I wanted to change to a 3-point, I type 3P, enter, and now I'm in the 3-point circle mode. So specify first point. So this is the cursor on the screen. I select a point. Down the bottom it's asking me for the second point, and now when it asks me for the third point, the first 2 points I've selected are remaining fixed, and as I move the third point around, I can draw my circle. And you'll see at the bottom, I'm not in the command anymore, it's waiting for a new command. So if I try that again, C space, and this is the standard mode, so just a center point, and then just drag out to your diameter you want. So that's a circle. A line is L space, and then I can draw lines, and it will continue from where I left off. If I don't want this last line, I press space, and it's done an autosave, but it's ended the line command. If I want to restart the line, I could do line space, or space invokes the last command I used, so I'm straight back into the line command again. And you can see it's snapping to the end there. When I get that square on the end of the line, it says endpoint, and it's snapping to the endpoint there. So I'll take you through snaps in a bit. I just want to get a few shapes on the screen. So we've got circles, I've got lines. Let's try a rectangle. So shortcut for rectangles, REC for rec, and then first point, second point, space to restart the command. I can go whatever way I want. Space, let's draw another one. So I can also get these tools from the toolbar on the right hand side here. I've got the line. I'm presuming if I hover over this it will tell me what they are. Infinite line, polygon, rectangle, polyline, arc, circle, ellipse, etc. Spline, cloud, various bits and pieces there. Okay, let's talk about coordinates. So we can, on this drawing sheet we've got here, this black bit of paper, it's all fully coordinated, and it'll be a global coordinate system. So it'll be a 0x, 0y coordinate somewhere, and x runs from left to right, and y runs from bottom to top. Actually, you see this arrow here? I can pan by pressing the mouse button down and moving the mouse around. So that's the mouse wheel. So press the mouse wheel and that's pans, that's useful. But this gives us our coordinate system. And as that's moving, that square there will be 0, 0. So x increases to the right and y increases upwards. Just thinking of commands as I'm moving it around here. Zoom is scrolling the wheel. So as I move the mouse up and down, I can zoom. And then pan, press the mouse button in, I can move it around. So that's a very fast way of panning and getting into somewhere. Okay, so we've got a global coordinate system. When we're drawing shapes, we can also use a local coordinate system, local to the first point. So E is erase. I'm just going to erase all this. So E, just keep an eye on this down here, space, and it's asking me to select. There's various ways I can select. I can select individual objects. I can left click on the mouse and drag to the right, and it will select everything inside the box. So you can see all that's selected. Even though I drag over this circle on the right hand side here, it's not being selected. So that's when I select going from left to right, it selects everything inside the box. If I click here and go to the right, it will just select this square. However, if I select from right to left, you'll see my box is now dotted. This is called a crossing selection box, and it will select everything that the green square crosses. So it's going to select this shape, these lines here, and it's going to select this circle. This line isn't being crossed, so that will be our only remaining line there, I believe. So if I select that, yeah, we didn't cross that one either. So we've selected our stuff to erase. I'm still in the erase command. It tells me I found 4 items. You know, there's various things here I've been selecting. If I press space, it will carry out the command and erase it. So just to get rid of these 2 last lines, I just want to emphasize that again. If I select to the right, I get a blue box. And if I select to the left, I get a green box. So the blue box, it only selects what's inside it. And to the right, it selects everything that's inside it and it crosses. So I'm going to erase these last 2 points here. So now then, let's draw something with global coordinates. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. So REC, a rectangle, and keep an eye down here, space. And it tells me exactly what I need to do, specify start corner. So there's 2 ways. I could click on the screen and drag, like that, erase. Or if I type rec in again, start a command, I could type a coordinate, so 0, 0, space. So you can see that first selection is on 0, 0, 0, and then if I select 50, comma 100. That'll be 50 in the X direction and 100 in the Y direction. Press space, and that's drawn my rectangle 50 millimeters wide, 100 millimeters high. If I wanted to zoom on everything I've drawn, if I double click the mouse button, the wheel, mouse wheel, it will zoom in to everything I've drawn. So everything that it's drawn will make it fit to the page, essentially. Now there's a dimension command, so DI for get distance, dimension I call it. So you can see it's auto snapping here. So let's just check that. We'll click there, and you can see it gives us the distance X and Y. So Y is 100 millimeters. If I run that command again, I could do the diagonals. And it's given me, down the bottom here, it's given me the diagonal distance, 111.803 millimeters. The X delta was 50 millimeters and Y delta was 100 millimeters. You can see there's a Z, so AutoCAD definitely deals, you can draw in 3 dimensions. It looks like Draftsight can. I've not done it in Draftsight, but I won't be going there today. So that was, we drew that rectangle in global coordinates, which is okay. But say I want to draw something somewhere else which doesn't originate 0 and I don't know the coordinates, I could do an ID space and then click, and it will tell me the coordinates of that space, that item I've just clicked on, so X50, Y100. But it's usually more convenient if I want to draw another square, 50 by 50, off the top right hand corner here. So I'll type rec, spacebar, I can click here. Now if I type 50, 50, space, it's drawn a rectangle. Where would 50 by 50 be? It should have drawn, so what it's done, it's drawn a rectangle, 50 by 50, 50 across, 50 up is here, so it's drawn a rectangle from here to 50, 50. It's used the global coordinates. If I try that again, and I could draw that at 0, 50. So that's the rectangle it's drawn in there, 0, and it used global coordinates. Now what happens if I want to draw that 50 by 50 up here? So escape is very good. You see I had that selected. Escape unselects everything, and if I'm in the middle of a command which I don't want to finish, just press escape. You might have to press it a couple of times sometimes, but if you get somewhere and things aren't working, just hit escape a few times. Now that's REC for rectangle. Click on there, and I want to draw it 50 millimeters to the right and 50 millimeters up. Now what I'm going to do is type YAT. Keep an eye down the bottom here. At means local coordinates, so this time I'm going to type 50, 50. It was relative to where it started. So I can draw a line at, so I'm going to draw a 45-degree line, 50, 50 again, and say I want to come down here 200 millimeters, so that would be 0 in the X direction. And let's do at 0, and then minus 100, I want to come down, space, I'm just drawing it to there. And then you can mix and match, so I can still click. If I want to draw it to there, I can click. And then if I want to draw it to global coordinates, minus 50 in the X and plus 100 in the Y, I can mix and match. So what's important there is if you want to draw something relative to where you've started, you need to use the @ symbol prior to typing in your coordinates. Right, I'm just going to draw a couple of circles here. Just freehand. If I wanted to draw a circle with, take a look at the bottom, it's asking me for a radius, so I can either click where I want or I can type a radius in. So if I wanted a radius of 75 millimeters, 75 space, or if I wanted to draw a circle with a diameter, you can see options are D and it's underlined. So if I press D where it says specify radius space, I can now specify the diameter. So 45. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to keep an eye on this bottom. It will give you all your options you've got available to you, and it will tell you what it's expecting. If something's not working right, you need to be reading this down the bottom here, and it usually tells you pretty much what it's expecting. So how do we modify stuff? So what are the modifying commands? So you can move things, you can delete, which we covered, stretch, mirror, rotate. So let's just cover a few of these. So delete or erase is E. So press E. We covered this earlier, but once again we can select individual items, or we can use our crossing select, or we can use our regular select from left to right. So that's erase. You've got your usual undo, Command Z, undo, redo, etc., as you would normally in any program. Just refer to my notes here. So that was erase, move. So M for move. So we can press M space and we can select things. And so it's asking for entities. So that's basically asking us what to select. Press space, and now it's selecting us from point. So it's asking for a displacement. So we can then specify where we want to move from. So if you just want to move this all 50 mil right, it doesn't matter, you can click anywhere. I can click here and then I can move it by freehand, or I can use global or local coordinates. It's asking for the specified destination, so I'm going to type at 50, 0, and it's moved it all 50 millimeters to the right. What I can also do is, if I want to move a distance, if I select these items again, and I want to move it the distance, say from the end of this line to the centre of this square, so still asking for entity, so I press space, from point. So if I want to move this here to the right by the distance between 2 points here, I can select the from point over here and then select the destination here. Now I didn't know what that distance was, but I knew I wanted to move it by that distance, and that's what that's done. So you can, when you move stuff, the from point doesn't have to be on what you're moving. It can be anywhere, which can be very useful. Let's move all this back. So that end point there. So this is all set up at the moment for snapping, and I'll take you through with various snaps and selections in a bit. So let's move. Now rotate. So say I want to rotate this line. RO is shortcut for rotate. RO space. Now I'm using all these commands. I'll find a document somewhere that tells you what all these are. I've been using them for years, so that they've just come second nature to me. But you can see in the right hand side here we've got this modify, and one of these I'm sure will be rotate. There, modify, rotate. I'm hovering over that. I expect it to tell me what the shortcut key is. It's not actually telling me. And I'm surprised it wasn't on the right hand side here. No, there it is. It is there actually. So let's rotate there. But I'm going to continue using the keyboard shortcuts. That's what I know. So we're in the rotate command. It's asking us to specify entities. I want to rotate this line. Press enter. It's asking me for a pivot point. So this is where it's going to rotate around. So if I want to rotate this line about this point here, 90 degrees this way. So that will be my pivot point. And then it's asking me to specify angle. Now I can either do that with the mouse, or I can type in an angle in degrees. Now I'm pretty sure, let's plug this in. I think positive degrees go anti-clockwise, so I'm going to specify minus 90 degrees and then space, and it's moved it. So in AutoCAD and Draftsight, a positive angle is anti-clockwise, which seems a bit backwards. I'm sure there's some sense in it, but that's how it works. Now if I just draw another line back to where it was, rotate. I didn't have to specify, I could rotate it around anywhere. So it's asking me entities, so I press space to get to the next point. Specify pivot point, I can pivot it around this corner of this square if I want. And you can see it's rotating around that square. Select there if that's where I want it. So rotate. And you can see rotate is moving it essentially. So I want to rotate this again, select entities, pivot point. It's snapping back there. So it moves it. I'm pretty sure we could do a rotate. Maybe I've gone. I thought I could copy. Anyway, so let's do a copy command. So CP is for copy. Specify entities, and we can again all use our crossing selection. Once they're specified that we want to copy, space. Again, we can specify where we want to copy from. So I want to copy from here, and I want to copy it to there. And it keeps on, you can keep on copying. So I can do a bit of a manual array here, but just by space to finish that off. So once again, just a reminder, if I double click the wheel, it will zoom to fit all. It looks like something's off the screen here, but that's because these toolbars don't dock and it's actually hidden behind there. Pan is press the wheel to get a hand, and then I can move my mouse around. And zoom is moving the wheel up and down. Everything so far has been, just recapping really, all my mouse clicks are with the left button. Right, now then, this mirror is very handy. So say I wanted to mirror a few of these MI for mirror, space. Now let's select what I want. I'm going to select 3 of them, so I'm going to use the selection box. So I'll move the box from left to right, and it's going to select everything inside it. So just them 3. Still asking me to select entities, so I need to press space to let it know I've selected everything, and then specify start point of mirror line. Say I wanted to flip them all through a horizontal line upwards. So if I select here and finish here, now it's asking me here. This is why it's so important to keep an eye on this box down the bottom. It's asking me to confirm delete source entities, yes or no. So it can mirror these up here, and it can delete the originals. If I say yes, or if I do no, it will mirror and copy. So let me do yes this time, and you can see it's mirrored them upwards. I could have done a mirror on any angle, so if I mirror these 3 here, and I'm just going to put a line through wherever I put the line. If I've done that in the wrong place, if I press escape, it exits the command, so I could do MI again, select my entities. Once I've selected them, it's sometimes, if you're new to this, it's easy to think now I should specify my mirror line, but it's still asking me to select entities. So space to tell it I've finished selecting. Now I can select my mirror point and mirror it through here at some arbitrary angle. And then I've selected that, and it's disappeared. You're asking, where's it gone? Why isn't it mirrored? Let's check down the bottom, delete source entities, yes or no. So this time I don't want to delete them, so it's N space, and we'll mirror them back. Now say I'll mirror these 3 back down the bottom again. This time I'm not going to delete source entities, so MI space, select them there, and then space again to tell it I finished selecting. I didn't get the I, that's in the move command, so I press escape, but it's just got me back to where I was. So MI, let's try again, space through there, no space, and it's mirrored them back. And the sum didn't delete the original source. So that's mirror. Now I can also stretch. So if I have a rectangle and say I'm going to have a line here, and I want to stretch this rectangle to meet this line. I can type in stretch, space. Now here it says specify entities to stretch by C window or C polygon. So C is a crossing window, so I need to select it from right to left. I don't select the whole box, because for it to stretch it needs to know I don't want this end to move, so I don't select that. So what I'm going to, it's this line here I want to move up to here. So if I left click here, and I do my crossing window here, so we're just selecting this, we're selecting the whole rectangle, but because I'm not selecting this line here, that will stay fixed. So if I left click there, it's still asking me to specify entities, so I could select more entities if I wanted to. I'm going to press space to tell it I've finished. And I'm going to stretch it from here to this line here. There we go, it's stretched it. Right, something else I'm going to show you now. I want to draw a line. At the moment, I can draw it wherever I want. Say, if you want to move something at 90 degrees, F8 is you want to know, remember F8. So F8, if I press it now, it turns on orthogonal. So now it locks to drawing lines at 90 degrees. And again, if I could type in, see my cursor is not on the end of the line, but the line is going upwards. So I can just type a distance in now. So if I typed 75, I'll draw a line 75 millimeters in the up direction, which is that distance there. So now if I wanted it 400 millimeters long in the right direction, I'll just make sure the line's pointing right, type 400 space, and it's drawn it. And that was 400 millimeters. And then if I want to revert back to freeform, press F8 again, and I can draw it however I like. So I use that when I stretch this window, stretch this rectangle. Let's move this. See, when I move what I've done there, M space, select that rectangle to move it. So I want to move it I want to move it to the left, but I don't want to move it up and down at all. So specify entity, so I press space, so I've selected my entity now. From point, so I want to move it from here, and I want to move it to the left. See, at the moment, it's moving to the up and down direction. If I press F8, now it locks it to just the horizontal axis, or I could go up here if I wanted to. But let's move it here. And let's do that stretch again. I've still got F8 selected, so you can only move orthogonal to where I selected it. So I selected it there, so I can move it up and down. I can move it right and left. So F8, orthogonal on and off, is very, very handy. I think I could turn this. There's orthogonal here, ORTHO. So you can see when I press F8, it highlights. When I press it, it unhighlights. So I could click down the bottom here as well, exactly the same thing. Right, what I'm going to do now is E for arrays, and then draw, select everything, erase everything. So I'm going to draw an imaginary robot chassis now. I haven't got any drawings with me. I'm just going to draw this out of my own head. So, say we want our chassis to be roughly rectangular with a couple of cutouts for the wheels, and then we want to make it a bit rounded. We'll make it up as we go along, but I'll take you through my thought process, and I'll show you a few extra commands along the way. So let's start off with our rectangle. REC for rectangle, and I'll just start anywhere, and I want it to be 400 millimeters long and 200 millimeters high. So I don't know where I clicked here, so let's use our relative coordinates. So at 400, 200 space. There we go. So that's a chassis size. Now I know I want some wheel cutouts, so let's draw a rectangle again. And my wheel cutouts are going to be 80 millimeters. So at 80, 25 millimeters high. So that's my cutouts. So I haven't drawn that in a particular space. Now I want to position that in the correct place, so I'm going to move it. So let's M for move. Let's select that. Remember, we've got to tell it we've finished set entity, so I press space again. Now I want to move it from here. And now I can I'll show you some of these extra commands now. So I'll do, I'll escape from there. M for move, select that again, space. Now I want to move, I want this wheel to be in the middle of the chassis. So I think this E-snap is on, which is handy. So if I move towards the end, it snaps towards the end point. If I try and it highlights as a square. Towards the middle is a triangle, that will be the midpoint, and then the end. So I've got sort of various AutoSnap setups. So if I want to move the middle from here, and then again when I hover over this line, if I select now, it'll jump into this position at the end. The midpoint of this rectangle will jump to the end of that line, but I want it to jump to the middle of this line. So you see that triangle's highlighted. If I left click now, let's snap that to the middle. Now we want a wheel on the other side, so I'm going to mirror MI space, and then we'll select from left to right, so we only select that rectangle. I've finished selecting entity, so I press space. Now I want mirror line to be through the middle of this rectangle, so it's asking me for my start point. So see that I can snap to the middle there, and I can snap to the middle here. It's asking me if I want to delete, so I don't want to delete the original one, I want to, so I press N, space. Now the wheel will be sitting in here somewhere, so I want to delete this line through here. So a rectangle is, let's see if I click that, is a polyline. So that is a line that's connected. If I just draw 4 lines, I'm going to turn orthogonal on here, F8, just to draw. And I'll show you something here. That if I hover, if I want to draw this line to the left and I want it to be the same length as this bottom line, I can hover over that endpoint, and I'll get the blue cross there, and then it snaps to that point. So I can draw a rectangle. Now, so I've got my rectangle there, but you can see when I highlight this, the individual lines highlight. So I can highlight that end line. I can't highlight the end line on this rectangle because it's all one object. So that's just something to bear in mind when what I'm going to do in a minute. So if I want to get rid of this line, so we can put our wheel would sit in here. There's 2 lines through here. There's one on the rectangle and there's one on this rectangle. So I'm going to use trim command here. So TR space. Now it's asking me to select cutting edges. So the cutted edges are what we want to trim between. So if I select that rectangle, the whole rectangle is a cutted edge essentially. I've finished selecting my cutted edges. Press space. Now I need to specify what segments I want to remove. And if I hover over here, you can see that the big rectangle has been selected. Now that's gone. You can see the rectangle there now is broken. You can see when I hover over the big rectangle, that's broken. And I was able to select on that second smaller rectangle as well to get rid of the bottom line. So I had to select that twice to trim that line out, and it used that line there and that line there as a cutting edge essentially. And then think that was a bit of a tricky example to start with. Let's just have a line here, a line here, and a line here. So I want to trim out this middle part of this line and keep these two vertical lines a bit on the end. But, I just want to delete this bit between these two lines. So TR for trim, space, select cutted edges. So that there and that there is going to be my cutted edge. I've selected all the cutted edges, so I press space. And now specify segments to remove. Select that there. And it's removed the bit in between them two lines. So that's essentially what I was doing with this rectangle here. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Another way, say I want two more cutouts here of similar size. I can't remember what size I made this, so I'm going to use a distance command, DI, space, and select 2 points. It was 80mm wide. So, say I want another 80mm cut out here, 10mm from the end. So I can use the offset command here. So O for offset. Specify distance, so specify 10, space, I want to offset this here, and I want to, it's now specify side for destination, so I can offset it to the right, offset it to the left. And it was a rectangle, so it's offset the rectangle inside it, which wasn't really what I wanted. I just wanted that vertical line offset. So this rectangle is a polyline. So I want to break this polyline really. So let's use the break, B-R-E-A-K. Specify entity. I want to break this polyline. And straight away it's asking me for second split point, which I don't like. So as an option, it's asking me for the first point. So I'm going to specify F for the first point. I want to break it there. Now it's asking me for the second point. I'm going to break it there. And the break deletes the point between the two lines. And depending what way you do it, see it's deleted this line. I actually wanted to keep that line, so I'm going to undo that. Control Z. This time I'm going to break it again. I'm going to select this as the first point, and that's the second point. Which didn't have the intended consequence. What I might do is just break it in the same place actually. So it's F for the first point, I'm going to just break it there, and the second point is going to be exactly the same place, so it's just broken. I'm going to do this exactly the same thing in this corner. So now you can see these are two separate lines. So I can erase all that. Now this line here is a bit small. I want it down with this rectangle, so I'm going to extend it. So EX, extend, space. Now it's asking me to specify to select entities. I don't think I hadn't finished the split command, so it's now specify boundary objects edges. So I'll extend it to this line here. I finished selecting boundary objects, so I put space. Now it's telling me to specify segments to extend. Now if I select this line at the bottom end, it will extend the bottom. If I select it at the top end, it will extend it at the top, so, and then space to exit that command. So it's now extended. And now I'm going to offset that line again, so space, and this time I'm going to offset 80 millimeters. Select it there, I'm going to offset it this way. So now this is 80 millimeters wide. And I want this cut out the same height as this one, so I'm just going to draw a line, L space, I'm going to draw it from here. I've got orthogonal on, so I'm just going to draw it through there, space to exit the line command. Now I've got my rectangle. Now what I can use is the trim command. Actually, let's draw another line through them. TR for trim, specify cutted object, so I want to cut out these two lines between these two lines. So these are my cutted objects. Space. Now specify segments to remove. I'm going to remove that. I want to remove that. Space. Now if I want to do the trim command again, I just press space so that it goes straight into the trim command again. This time I'm going to select these as my cutted objects. Space, and then I'm going to get rid of that bit, and that bit, and that bit. Space to exit. And I've got my other my other two openings. Let's do trim to remove this line here. TR space. Let's select them two lines. Them two lines. Space. And then select the lines I want to trim out. And space to exit. Oh, I haven't done this one, have I? TR. I need to do that to remove that long line. And if I do it again, it will get rid of that part of the rectangle. And space to exit. Now, say this is going to be the back. I want the front rounded a bit, and I want an arc through here. So I'm going to draw a line through here as the midpoint, just to give me a bit of L space. And it's going to snap onto the midpoint. Orthogonal is on, so I can just draw that through here. So this is just a working line. And I want a line, show you a move command. So if I draw a line through there, this is just a working line. I'll delete it later, but I want to offset this line back 75 millimeters from here to here. And you can see it's connected to here. And that's all one line. And previously, when we offset the line, that we know these two lines will come in as well. So rather than mess about with offsetting, trimming, extending, I've just drawn an arbitrary line in here. I'm going to move this line, M space, select it, space, set the middle point there, and then I can offset this 50 mil, or I can move it 50 mil, or 75 mil, whatever I said I was going to do. So I'm going to use offset, O for offset, specify distance 75 millimeters, space, that's going to be the source, and then this is going to be the side, so it's space to exit. Now I'm going to use an arc, ARC, space, specify the start point in there, start there. Some of these commands will take a bit of playing. I didn't read what I was doing, so let's try again. Arc space. So I could have specify start point. So I really want to start the arc here, don't I? 3 point. So I've got options here. I can specify the centre or the end, or specify the point I want to go through. So I want to go through this point here, and I'm going to finish it here. Then I want to get rid of everything at the front here, so I know I can erase this line. And I want to get rid of this here, and I'm going to use this arc as a trimming point. So TR for trims, space, select that as a cutted entity, space, and then pick that line there, pick that line there, space, and then let's erase this line here. I'm going to erase this set of line as well. So you can see very easily we can draw stuff to very set dimensions by using offset and move. You could draw it in relative coordinates or absolute coordinates. It's entirely up to you, but I know precisely how long these lines are. There's no worried about guides. I can draw lines in to use as guides and just offset them and erase them. It's all very flexible. And so say I want a few mounting points in the middle here. I want a few holes, 3mm diameter holes. I'm going to draw some guidelines in, which are just regular lines. So if I draw a line in through there, and I want so I'm going to have a couple of holes on this line, and I want this offset down here, 75mm. So over offset. So that's going to be from the distance, 75, space. Like that, this side, space. Zoom in, I'm going to draw a circle, C. Hold on, and this line here. I don't want it in the middle, so I'm going to turn these snap off. I do want it on this line, but I don't want it in the middle. So what you can do is hold down Shift and right mouse button, and you can select what snaps you want to use. So I'm going to just use nearest. So it's going to snap onto this line, but I'm not constrained by where it goes. So I'm just going to pick anywhere here, and then I'm in this radius. I want this whole 3mm diameter, so I'm going to press D for diameter, space, and then I'm going to type in 3mm space. That's a 3mm hole. And I want my next hole 100mm along this line, so I'm going to copy it. So CP for copy, zoom in a bit, select that hole, space, and I've turned these snap off. It would normally snap on the centre, so I could do Shift right click and do centre, or I could turn these snap back on. So I'm going to move it from here. Again, if your lines, if it's not staying on that line, press F8 to turn orthogonal 1. And I want it 100mm, so it's asking about the second distance, so 100, space, and it's moved it, copied it rather, 100mm. So to get out, see, I can place more holes if I want, or circles, wherever I want at different distances from this first point. But I'm just going to enter space to finish that command. Now I want to copy these down onto this line here. So I'm going to CP for copy, and then select both of them. I've turned these snap off here, so it doesn't automatically so I can show you exactly what snaps I'm using. So shift, right click, and I'm going to snap from the centre here, and this time orthogonal's still on. But to get it, to make sure it's perpendicular to this line, I'm going to right shift and right click. I'm going to use the perpendicular, and you can see we get a little perpendicular snap mark appear there. So I left click, we've got my holes there, and right click to finish. And then I can erase these two lines. That's my mounting holes for whatever I'm going to mount on it. I haven't got them quite central. If I wanted to move them, I could select them all, move them about. If I wanted to make it central to the chassis, just draw a line from, turn the snap back on here, line from there to there, and a line from there to there, and then actually going to draw a line from there to there. So if I want to move these four central to the chassis, just select them all. And I want to move from the centre of this line, so I want this line centred on this line. So you can see when I hover over that line, the centre triangle appears. So left click there. Now I don't want to move this left and right, so I'm going to use perpendicular again. So PER for perpendicular. They're now central. If I use distance command DI from there to there, 37.5 millimeters. If I do DI from there to there, 37.5 millimeters. So that's now centered. I can now delete my working lines. Right, what next? Chamfer and fillet, I think. So I've got some sharp edges here. Maybe I don't want a sharp edge, so I can fillet it or chamfer it. So let's try fillet first. FI short for fillet. Oh no, it's not. It's filter. So fillet. Let's type fillet. FI double L ET space. And one of the options here is radius. So I can specify my fillet radius. So if I press R, see R is underlined. R for radius space. It's default to 10, so I can just press space and it will confirm 10. But say I want it 15, I can type in 15 space, and I want this to be filleted through here. So if I select this line here, that line there, I've got a nice 15 millimeters fillet on there. And again, if I just press space to restart that, you can see the radius is already set to 15. I can just select my first entity and the second entity and space to end. Right, space again. Let's So that's fillet. One useful feature of fillet is, say I wanted that to be square. To get it square, I just use a fillet radius of 0. So say there was a line here and a line through here, and I want these two lines to join up, I can just use the fillet command. R for radius, set the radius to 0, set the first line, set the second line, and it joins them up, space to exit. So that's another use for fillet. And let's try chamfer. So CH, yep. Second chamfer, and I get the various options here. So the one I'm going to show you is distance. So D for distance. Set the first distance so you can have an equal chamfer or an unequal chamfer. So let's have the first distance of 5mm and the second distance of 15mm. So select the first line and the second line. So that's a chamfer of 5mm through there and 15 through there. Press space to rerun that command, and you can see it's saved them commands. Distance 1 equals 5, distance 2 equals 15. Select the first line, which will be 5, select the second line, which will be 15. Yeah, undo that. Now the chamfer. Distance 1, 5, distance 2, 15. Select the first line. So I think yeah. Oh well, that seems a bit backwards to me. But sometimes it's trial and error. Chamfer. First line. Second line. Let's try it again. First line, second line. So yeah, there's a bit of a peculiarity there. The first, I selected that as the first line, and it's chamfered it 5mm, and I selected this as the first line, but it's done it 15mm. So it must be just how it's drawn. So you might just have to use, if it does it the wrong way around for you, just undo and redo it the other way. I can't get that to go the way I want. So, no idea why that's not quite working. I can't get that chamfer to go the way I want it for some reason. Let's see if I can. Might be because this is part of the polyline, so let's break this line here. B-R-E-A-K, break. Specify entity, and it defaults to second point. So I've specified this entity somewhere around here. So the breakpoint will be wherever I clicked it, which could be some random point. So let's use F to set the first point again, and I'll select on that corner. And I'll put a second breakpoint exactly on that corner, and it just breaks them 2 lines up. And what the break does, it breaks it in between 2 points and deletes the space in between the 2 points. But quite often it's useful just to break it in between at the same point. So let's try chamfer again. Distance 1 is 5, distance 2 is 15. So I want this to be 5. That to be 15. Not working. Maybe it's a bug. Try it the other way around. No, so whatever way I do that. So we can't use chamfer there, let's use offset. So offset 5, let's offset this line 5 mil, and offset again, O for offset, 15mm space, I'll offset this line 15mm. I must have undone that break. Let's redo that break. So offset 15. Now I could just draw my line in manually. And then I can use trim, TR for trim, select that as a cutting line. Oops. See, if you select too much, you can undo, which takes it out of the selection, or you can type R for remove, I think. See, it says remove entities, and then space to select the entities, and then I want to remove that, and then I can erase two lines there, and I've done my chamfer manually. So we'll have to do the same here. Let's break. Another way of breaking up a polyline is to explode it. Explode. Select that, and you can see now it's all broken up into its parts. They're all separate elements now. Let's try to fill it here again. Sorry, chamfer. Distance 5, 15. So I want that to be 5, that to be 15. No, it's worked. Maybe explode is a way to do it. Anyway, so that's chamfer. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I've covered quite a lot. Some of you may have got lost. I use this every day, so I've tried to cover it as simply as I can. If you've got any specific questions, then just leave a comment or send me a tweet at PiTutorials. If you want me to cover anything specific in more detail, then just let me know. But I hope that's been helpful to you. So there we go. That's gone on quite a bit longer than I thought it would actually. So I hope it was of use. Like I said just now, any questions, just send me a tweet, leave a comment, and I'll try and answer as best I can. Cheers for now. Bye.